Relax. It's Casual Fridays on Soccer Cards United. Okay, so I am sitting here with the man, you may know him from the incredibly useful and important soccer card website, Soccer Cards HQ. You may enjoy taking scenic walks with him on his Walking with HQ series on Instagram. You may know him as one of, if not the most frequently quoted person on the Soccer Cards United podcast in the show's history. Maybe just behind Rich Mueller of Sports Collectors Daily. But I just know him as my mate Scott, Mr. Soccer Cards HQ. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Some would say I've been the third man in the booth of Soccer Cards United the whole time. I'm not saying that, but some people may say that.
I think it's sort of one of those things where like it's kind of a fifth Beatle argument, and you're definitely in the conversation. Some people will consider you maybe the editor in chief or an editor at large at Soccer Cards United.
I'll take it.
So thanks for joining me on Casual Fridays. To be honest, just a peek behind the curtain for the listeners. When we started Casual Fridays and I started doing these chats, I kind of knew, kind of instantly, I was like, well, I'll have to have Scott on. I want to have Scott on. But then I was like, I don't know. I feel like I feel like there's so much to cover. We're not going to cover everything today, and you can come back on the show. But like, it's just like people may not know, we've met several times in person. We see each other once a year, generally at the National and the Soccer Expo, and so we've had kind of many conversations lasting, many hours about soccer cards. And so I feel like we're not going to get to cover all of our pet topics today, but we are going to. I'm going to kind of load you up with some of my favorites, some of my greatest hits, or your greatest hits, I should say. I want to start off by talking about Messi and the Messi market. And we had a conversation a couple of years ago in Cleveland, or was it a year ago? It was a year and a half ago. Yeah. In Cleveland, about the Messi market, which was just heating up at that time and really starting to run away from the rest of the soccer card market and decouple from Ronaldo and from everybody else, really. And then we saw that. And then when we saw you again, Enzo and I saw you again this year in Chicago, it was like, well, because you had kind of told us, like, you were like, I'm hearing this stuff, I'm hearing that stuff. The Messi market, I don't think is going to stop. It is going to run away. And then with Lamine Yamal and everything happened there, it just kind of multiplied it. And now we're in this kind of crazy zone of Messi prices where we're getting kind of multiple reported $1 million sales of the 71 bis PSA 10. Can you just tell me, like, what has the last couple of years been like for you observing the Messi market and kind of what have you noticed happening behind the scenes, maybe that people aren't so, it's not so obvious to people?
Yeah. So I do want to point out that I literally walked Enzo over to a 71 bit in Cleveland last year and said, the basketball collectors are coming. You need this card. Yeah. It's probably the best advice I've ever given to anybody. And, I don't give financial advice. I famously don't give financial advice. Yes. Just because I think in life in general, giving financial advice is just a no-win situation.
I agree.
That being said, the only card that I've ever publicly really said I would buy is the 71 bis. But I was saying that for years and nobody listened. And so, I got rumblings that basketball collectors, mostly basketball collectors, were basically trying to buy every high grade that they could. Mm-hmm. And there was somebody very high up in the in the industry that was basically doing it for, that they were using as a facilitator.
Yes.
And that's what I found out. And so that's why, I get a lot of information in my DMs that isn't like, oh, this card's going to be pumped. I just know when like 3 or 4 different people just randomly ask me for a card that maybe there's something going on, or I'll get, bits and pieces of information that lead me to believe that.
Yeah.
And so, 71 bits just happened to be that thing. That said, what I think that card and what all of this truly shows is that other sport collectors push the high end of our market way more than the soccer collector, push the high end of our market. We're still very, very, very tiny in comparison to the other sports. And that's kind of basically what happened in the COVID boom. Like it wasn't soccer collectors that were rushing to buy base whatever, or 2014 Messi base or so forth
Neymar
and so
base or
on.
anything.
Yeah. Like when I was selling back then, and even today, I go, if I can find a person's Instagram profile, I go look at it and I see what other cards they had. And I remember I sold. This is a true story. I sold a Erling Haaland 2019 Bundesliga Chrome base PSA 10 for $3,000 to a guy that didn't even have a sports card on his page. It was like all comic books and like, so forth and so on, Obviously that was back in the original boom. But like, even if you look now at the people that are showing off the big Messis or the big Lamines, and you go to their page, you're going to see a lot of basketball cards, a lot of football cards, not necessarily really many baseball cards, because the baseball collector is not the same as the football and the basketball collector for the most part. I'm not saying there's no overlap, but it's usually a whole different animal. And I think that I think we can see that playing a lot out in which Messi cards have like really, really exploded. There are cards that, say a basketball collector would be comfortable with. And I think a great example of that, so it is the dynasty cards, right? They're game worn uncard patch autos. And Messi has very, very few of that combination, right? He'll have match worn with stickers, or maybe there's a bad auto, so forth and so on. So that combo is very, very rare. It's basically flawless, which the soul of the games, they just gone crazy.
How many of those are there?
Yeah. But then the dynasties, really, if you think about what they really haven't gone all that crazy. And it's just my personal belief is that the basketball collector is not familiar with Topps Dynasty. Now that's going to change because it's a baseball product, right? Yeah. And that that's going to change. Whereas you see like that National Treasures of, I don't know, I think it was of 10. It might have even been of 49 or whatever. Just that Timeless Talents on card auto went for, I don't know, 45, 49,000, something crazy. Which makes no sense. I know, I get it's like tied to the World Cup and so forth, even though it's technically a road to Qatar product, but whatever, right? Yeah. But what that showed to me is that National Treasures it's a very popular basketball, brand, and so it kind of got that premium. There's the gold proof flawless. Right?
Oh, by the way, do you know what a gold proof flawless is? We've been asking each other on the show, do you know what a gold proof flawless is? Is it like a black box one-on-one, like they just put a stamp on it?
Yeah, essentially, right?
Okay.
They basically took, I think it was 16 total cards. 2 of them, I think, are of 2s. The other 14 are of 1 of 1s.
Yeah.
But it doesn't match the color.
Parallel.
Yeah,
the
parallel.
Yeah.
They just stamped. And so I would be willing to bet, I could be wrong, but I'd be willing to bet that the person that bought it had no idea either. They were just like, flawless, 1 of 1 Messi.
Yep, I'll take it.
And I'll take it, and I'll pay a lot for it.
Yeah, I mean, the cards that come to mind when you're talking about how it's what appeals to existing collectors in other sports, especially in football and basketball, which are kind of in Panini land. When we think about the selects and the recent big sales we've seen for the 101, the Black Select, Messi's, those are cards that if you gave a soccer collector a long time to name, they would eventually get to it. Of course, it's not that it wouldn't be there, but like those are 101 selects. Again, it's very obvious to somebody coming in from basketball or coming in from NFL what that is, and like they're completely comfortable with it. And I wonder, I get the distinction between the baseball collectors kind of being on the top side and Messi having all these kind of Panini case hits and low short prints and all this stuff. Why do you think basketball collectors are more attuned to soccer than football collectors are? Or is it just kind of a coincidence?
You mean like NBA?
I mean NBA, yeah. Why does it
I
seem
know.
like
I think
yeah,
I just think I think there's more basketball collectors, and I think it's a lot of Jordan collectors, to be honest.
yeah.
Not I mean basketball, but also very much Jordan. And I think what it comes down to is Jordan collectors have made a crap ton of money,
Yeah.
and they see the parallels of
Yeah.
Jordan and Messi as just as far as goats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're very very comfortable. I think if
Do
you
you get the sense that maybe they've made a lot of money in the Jordan market, and they're kind of looking around and they see who they consider to be, or who everyone is telling them is the kind of the Michael Jordan of soccer, and they're kind of looking and they're going like, well, I have this money, let's do it again. Not to say that there was like, I'm not implying the existence of some sort of Jordan cartel. That's another
yeah
podcast. I'm sure people have thoughts on that, but um, like it is interesting that they've identified what a kind of Jordan shaped player in soccer, and they feel like they can take this player on a run, take his cards on a run. And I guess the rest of the market doesn't need to be that involved if there's enough of these guys that are bidding against each other.
yeah, I mean one of the most famous Messi collectors, Rodman, it was a Jordan collector
Yeah,
that was just way ahead of the curve.
yeah,
Like he made I, I'll call it card money. I mean, I'm not getting into like his personal finances, but
yeah.
he made a lot of quote unquote card money, um, in Jordan, and he
Yeah.
used some of that money and came over and was able to get, not similar, but like if you consider like the
Hmm.
best of Jordan cards aren't the same as the best of Messi cards, but like the top tier ones, they're fractions,
Yes.
on the dollar.
Yeah.
Um, and so I guess and he obviously he likes Barcelona. He likes Messi, so like that obviously is probably why he was much earlier than the rest of the
Yeah.
guys that have come in. Um, but maybe some of those guys have seen his success, because he has a very big Jordan following,
Yeah.
because that's how he started. I don't know who. Well, I know one person that's buying all the great Messi's, but he's not a card guy. I don't know how much he's out there. Obviously, he owns a professional soccer team.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
He's got a Netflix show about him right now.
Hmm.
Um, but I think ultimately I think the basketball people like caused the early run from last year until now in the 71 bis. I think the new buyer, um, I think what is this? I mean, I know his real name, but I'm not going to use it. I think it's like ATC cards or something. I forget
Yeah.
exactly
I don't know. I
what
don't know.
is.
I know his name as well, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know the
But
brand, so we're not going to say it.
basically, he came in and started buying what seemed he I know the person that's or one of the people that is consulting for him. I guess
Yes.
I don't know if that's the proper term, but someone that's helping him. And that guy's he's been a follower of mine for a long time
Hmm.
before he emerged on the scene. So he's definitely been studying himself. He's talking to people that are highly, highly, highly respected soccer collectors, and he seemingly is just trying to buy every great Messi card that he
Yeah.
can. And so I think that has also kind of caused the high end non 71 bis to go absolutely nuts, because these Messi collectors are like, oh crap, this train is leaving. I need to get what
Yes.
I can.
Yeah.
And like, some of the, those guys are like actual collectors. Um, as I told you guys this story, but I just happened to be standing. Well, I was privy to two great Messi scenes at this year's National in Chicago. One was when the green Kaboom sale was kind of first getting announced or whatever, and I happened to be with a few of the biggest Messi collectors.
Yeah.
And I said, none of which were the buyer. The buyer is just a general like goat collector.
But again, it's you think about Green Kaboom. Again, it's another
Yeah,
example of it. It fits an archetype of a kind of card, a Green Kaboom that a high end collector from another sport will be completely comfortable buying into. Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt the story. You can go
yeah.
ahead.
No, exactly, right.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, that I'm talking to them. I was like, what do you guys think about the sale? Like, it seems a little crazy to me. And one of the guys who deals in six figure Messi cards, like this
Mm-hmm.
isn't like he said it'll never sell for cheaper. And I thought that was very, very poignant,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like the people that are buying those cards are collectors and they don't need the money. And
Yeah.
so they're it's not like they're taking a chance on a of 50 gold or
It's not a flip.
whatever. It's not a flip, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you look at it like that, uh it makes a lot of sense.
It
And
does.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wonder, like, it's because one of the things that I find kind of not frustrating, but can be difficult sometimes is when you're talking about this. I almost feel like, say, we're doing soccer cards night or whatever, and when you're talking about this stuff, like you kind of have to talk about the soccer card market, and then it gets to a point, and then you're kind of no longer in the soccer card market.
Right.
You're in the Messi market on its own, or now maybe you might say the Ronaldo market, or we saw Lamine Yamal go crazy. So I suppose, how do you find? Is it difficult for you to kind of make it clear, or to draw distinctions between, like, when you're talking to people, you're like, all this stuff is great and these cards are probably never going to go down in price, and this is all like new money coming into soccer, but do you find it like sort of hard to square that with the fact that that's not necessarily mirrored in the mid end and the low end in soccer? Like, the soccer collectors are generally confining themselves to a lower area.
Yeah, I think, yeah, the high end and the high end of the best players. Well, that okay, let me backtrack. That's the difference between this boom and the COVID boom,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The COVID boom was base cards doing way too much,
Yeah.
right? This is the best players going crazy, and there is a trickle down, right?
There is. Yeah.
But it's not a huge trickle down,
I mean,
right?
I think. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I think what happens is somebody says, okay, well, I think let's say, I don't know, Saka, right?
Hmm.
They're like, I might feel a little more comfortable paying a little bit more for this, Saka gold, like Panini Prism Gold
Yeah.
or whatever, right? But it's not going to 5x, right? It's just going to lead to just a little more comfortability. But I don't see people going crazy on base cards or
No.
undesirable cards,
Which
right?
I guess is good. That's a sign.
No,
It's a much
yeah,
healthier sign if like the market, you almost kind of want the money at the top end to be a little bit merciless, and to be a little bit like kind of like ruthless, and say, like, instead of some guy coming in and saying, I have X tens of thousands to spend and I'm going to spend it on all of these, hundreds of base cards or this,
yeah,
that, or the other. You kind of want them to be more, because, as you say, from then a lower level in the mid range or in the low end, you kind of look and go, well, these guys are spending money on soccer cards way up here. Although I'm not necessarily involved in that market, it does mean that it's a general sign of confidence in the market. The trickle down effect is interesting. We saw the Jude image variation Chrome Superfractor rookie sell for, I think, $60,000, which I felt was much more a reflection of confidence in the soccer card market than it was anything to do with Jude. But I think, I mean, the elephant in the room for me is the Lamine Yamal market and the run that's been making. I wonder, as someone who's around a lot of Messi collectors and kind of what they're up to, how much do you think Lamine Yamal's prices are? How much is it baked in that he is kind of like a Messi regen, to put it in kind of football manager terms?
I have a theory, and this is based on no information at
I would
all.
love to
This
hear it.
is this is a Soccer Cards United put on the tinfoil hat
Yeah.
and go to work. All
Yeah.
right. Uh, so Lamine Yamal, if the original boom essentially came after he was knocked out of Champions League last year, right?
Mm.
Which never happens. We don't
Yeah.
like there's player gets knocked out of major competition, loses major game, whatever. Like this is just in sports in general. Their cards go down, for a short amount of time, or usually until they,
there's a dip because they
they're
got knocked out, and
there's a dip, right? And these cards just went up. So my theory is that basically this all happened as the basketball season was like winding down. LeBron and Luka, the Lakers, got eliminated from the playoffs, which frees up a lot of whatever. And they needed somewhere to go, and it made sense. The Euros were coming. I'm not even sure they knew the Euros were coming. The people.
I'm always skeptical about when knowledge is assigned to kind of like wider collector base. I'm like, I'm not sure people know who Spain have drawn in their group, or if he gets an assist in the Euro. Like, I don't think that's really obviously the cumulative effect of there's this kid and he's kind of doing a madness in the Euros. That might be communicated, and that can happen. But in terms of the specifics, I'm always wary about those specifics. So I'm attracted to your theory of outside the soccer market forces being at play. I think that's uncomfortable to think about, because we like to imagine that we can explain things among ourselves, and it is slightly uncomfortable, or slightly not demeaning, but it can kind of hurt the ego to be like, oh, so the basketball collectors are bored, our entire market changes in the course of a couple of weeks. But it does show the amount of capital available in other sports compared to soccer in general.
Yeah, it shows that, and the soccer market has grown like a lot since the boom, right? But I've mentioned this before. I mentioned it to you. I mentioned it publicly. I just don't think the Europeans, the appetite for the Europeans to go balls to the wall on a card, is quite there yet. Although it's getting there. It's getting there more and more every single day. But a lot of it just has to do with like Americans are just greedy capitalist pigs, and like we just like love to go crazy and spend money and win big.
Yeah.
But I do think another part of it is that if you are a basketball collector or you are a long time collector, you don't have to be American. It just so happens that a lot of them happen to long time collectors happen to be American, right? You either made a lot of money on cards in the boom, or you were brought into the hobby because your friend made a lot of money on cards in the boom, right? And so that's how bubbles are created. Basically, the idiot makes money, and you're like, I'm smarter than the idiot, so I can also
if he
make
can do
money.
that, I can.
Right. And so that hasn't existed as much in the European hobby, or the rest of the world.
Yeah, the success stories aren't necessarily there to encourage we'll all hop in kind of thing.
Exactly, but I think that's changing every day, because obviously there was a bunch of Europeans that were here for the Lamine rush, and they've made a bunch of money, and hopefully they've told a friend, Although, just to backtrack at all, this thing, I hate that the hobby has become so much about money, but like let's just,
well, we are where we are. Yeah, we're gonna have to just
we had to accept it, right? But so I think that is going to help grow the hobby, and hopefully some of those people also had Messi, which they probably did, and now you're at the pub on Friday night, and you're like telling your mates, I made $500 on a Messi card. They're like, what? And so they're like, well, maybe I should give this a try. Okay, and so that I think will help everything else, but that doesn't help the high end unless you just have like really really rich friends.
I wish I had those kind of friends who it's like, okay, let's go out and spend a couple of $100,000, let's get going. I mean, I think in terms of those Europeans, like I got a message from the buyer of two Ronaldo Nazario 101 Dynasty sold. One of them was a PSA 8, sold for $40,000. One of them PSA 10, sold for $80,000. And the buyer of one or the other of them messaged us, and it was a Brazilian guy. And I don't know where he's based. Maybe he's based in Brazil. Maybe, I don't know. But that sort of stuff. You see that kind of sale. You see the Jude Superfractor sale I was talking about. The 101 Zidanes and Kakas and stuff that are doing nice numbers. Neymar's doing nice numbers. I think those are the pockets of international. I sense the international influence in those big sales, where it's like,
Right.
you know, an Neymar PSG card is not going to necessarily be of any interest to somebody who's a big basketball collector, but it could be a grail for one of four high-end PSG collectors. And when we see those sales, those are signs that, like, because those are things that are kind of pretty soccer specific. And I think
Yeah.
the Messis, the Yamals, the Ronaldos to a certain extent, those are kind of just like, you can kind of make a cold-hearted analysis of those markets. You can say, well, Messi's Jordan and maybe Ronaldo's LeBron or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can now just activate my money and we can ride these prices up. But like, that's not necessarily true of Kaká or of you know, Saka or somebody like that, or anybody that ends in Aka. So yeah, I wonder, I mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo. I wonder what you think of his market. Are we going to see a kind of messification of the Cristiano market? Are we already seeing it? And what's your thinking
Yeah,
there?
I mean, obviously, we've seen what happened with the 2002 rookie
Yes.
PSA 10. You know, I think it's very easy to play to say, oh, you know, Ronaldo should catch up to Messi, so I'll, you know,
Yeah.
go there. Like that's my next, because that happens in cards a lot, not just soccer cards. It just happens in cards, right?
Yeah.
You're like, this went, so now let's see the next thing. Now, what do we think the next thing that's going to go is, right?
Yeah.
And the Messi Ronaldo thing obviously makes a ton of sense. I the thing that I would love to see, not from a like a the sporting side of it, but what happens if Ronaldo wins the World Cup or
Yeah.
Portugal wins the World Cup?
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, you were around, you know, pre Messi World Cup, right?
Yeah.
And the Ronaldo and Messi markets were, let's just say, they were in the same general range.
They were in touching distance of each other for sure.
Yeah, and then Messi wins the World Cup, and now it's a, you know, a 3 to 4x kind
Yeah.
of a situation, or you know, depending on the car, or whatever. But now, what if, like, because I think in the general dynamic, the general public, that like ended the GOAT debate for between those two. You know, I'm sure people will go crazy. They'll be like, oh, Ronaldo's still the GOAT, blah blah blah. but just in the general, you know, conversation, it ended the debate. And a Ronaldo winning a World Cup, I think, just like gets us, you know,
Just
it's
throws the
probably
whole
the best.
debate back open.
It just throws the whole debate back open, and like,
Yeah.
then what happens with, do Ronaldo cards catch Messi? Do they come in the middle and meet? I don't know what would happen there. I think it would be, just from a purely data standpoint, I'd love to see like how that would all play out. But you know, pretending that doesn't happen, I think he's going to play catch up, but I don't know exactly like where that stops, or
where the multiple kind
yeah,
of ends up.
I don't, you know, I don't know, you know, because there's all different, you know, there's more PSA 10s of the rookies than Messi has,
Yeah.
and like I think like, well, yeah.
There's something you don't want to say, but come on, I'll push you.
No, I mean, like, I've seen like the, you know, the market cap debate and all this other
Yes,
stuff,
yes,
and I just don't think it. I don't think it applies. I think there's just way too many moving factors
yeah.
to try to simplify it down to something like that. You know?
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah, I think there's an incredible amount. I am always wary, and I mean, I had Matt on the show from Slabnomics, and we talked about the market cap thing, and I was like very satisfied because when you hear theories like that, it is satisfying, and we have this yearning to be like, and I think actually, I think a lot of that stuff is actually very valid and does make sense, and I think it's useful to highlight general discrepancies or to highlight kind of areas of like, well, does that make sense? Or if we like, okay, I think this, can we kind of run a sanity test on it? But then I think what you're saying is valid as well, that like there are massive subjectivities at play. There are forces working completely out of the
yeah,
light that we don't know anything about. And also I will say, and I think this is something that's not talked about enough in the hobby, is that it's very hard to predict the whims of eccentric millionaires. And a lot of what is driving the market at the high end is no, very nice, mostly for
Yeah.
the most part. They're very, very pleasant eccentric millionaires, but it is largely driven by eccentric millionaires. So, who knows what will happen at the top end of the market. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably be considered an eccentric millionaire. I'm not playing in that stratosphere, but I talk to them enough to kind of at least get a general understanding.
Yes.
And what a point I want to touch on is like these guys are collectors. Like we pointed out earlier, but these guys are collectors, right?
Yeah.
And they also they love these cards. The other story, like in the national that I was going to tell was I was privy, basically one of the a Messi 1 of 1 was for sale
Mm-hmm.
privately, and I was there as like it was being talked about, and the person that ended up ultimately buying it like wanted the card.
Yeah.
Like there was not. It wasn't like the value. Like he was. I could tell by talking to him that he knew the card was overvalued. He was going to pay more than he felt comfortable for
Mm-hmm.
the card, or no, I won't even say felt comfortable, but just more than he thought he would have to pay for the card.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's say,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it didn't matter. He wanted the card,
Yeah.
right? He wanted the card in his collection. He wanted to pair it with another card in his collection, and that's what ultimately happened. These guys, like if you're successful like that, you've probably done a lot of winning in life and not a lot of losing. And
Yeah.
so, when it comes down to it, you don't want to lose this. You want the card. And so, yeah, I guess that gets to your point. Like when there's only one,
Yeah.
you have to go for it. If there's even 10 of them or 50 of them, you got to back off. So like when you look at these dynasty, I think it's a great example. Like when you look at that dynasty Ronaldo Madrid, that was maybe one of the greatest Madrid cards ever with that with that patch, based on who the player was, so so forth and so on, right? So you only need two super Madrid collectors in the world that have the means to go be like I need
And,
that card.
and now you have
Right.
a market.
Now you have a market.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that people, especially newer people, need to at least think about what is like truly collectible
Yes.
if they're making their decisions, financially, I guess, we'll call it. If you like a card, buy it, pay whatever you want, right? That's how everybody should be, right?
Yeah.
But as we pointed out, that's not the way it always is, right? So I don't think a lot of newer collectors understand what is truly collectible, right? And I've talked to, I'll just give an example, right? Like on my Walking with HQs, I often make up jokes of like the purple platypus of 299 parallel, right?
Yes.
And those things aren't collectible. Those things are that people buy ultimately hoping to flip at some point down the road because they guessed the right player or whatever, right? And so those things aren't collectible,
And you might
right?
sell that. You might sell. Let's say it's a purple platypus of 299 parallel, and you pick the right player. You're in it for whatever X, and then you'll eventually sell it for Y. But the person again that you sell it to will be
Yeah,
hoping to sell it on to somebody else. And the point
right.
is, there's no at the end of that alphabet, there isn't necessarily some sort of ultimate collector there. It's kind of just being passed around as a sort of a substitute or as a like a marker of that player's relative performance.
Exactly. Yeah, like there's commodity cards and there's coffin cards, right? A
Yes,
commodity
yes.
card gets traded often. A coffin card is the one you want, and you love it so much you want it buried with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what ends up happening is a lot of new collectors and a lot of collectors in general. I won't just say new, but they end up buying like all these commodity cards. Like instead of just buying, let's say a true gold of 50, they'll buy 12 purple platypuses,
Yeah,
right? Or
yeah, 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 yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
right? And ultimately, it may work in the very very short term if you get everything right, but those cards aren't collectible. So in the long run, the cards that are truly collectible are the ones that people want, and those are the ones that we're seeing the insane prices on, right? Because they don't come up often, because
Mhm.
so many people want them in their collection that they stay in their collection, right? So if you buy a card that you truly love, right? Like you collect Ireland cards, right?
Yes.
And low numbered Ireland cards, right?
I
And
have
say,
a all five Euro
yeah,
2016 Prism crest
perfect,
here. Yeah.
yes, perfect example, right? It's an of five. I don't know what you pay for it. I don't know what it's worth, but let's just say you paid $500 for it, right?
Yeah.
And then
I think I did play I think I did pay 500
okay,
bucks for it.
whatever, right? And if that card goes down to 400 or
Yeah.
350, you're not going to care,
No.
right? Like you love the card, that's part of your collection, and you're not going to like get panic and sell that card, right?
Yes.
But if you buy a new purple platypus of a prospect, right,
Yeah.
and it starts going down, you're like, oh no, this ain't, I got to go, right? And then if so, those are the cards that are just going to keep moving and moving and moving and moving in time. Whereas, like even like high number Messi that isn't desirable hasn't gone up nearly as much as the good stuff, right?
Yeah. It's not an even distribution of the increase in price.
Yeah, I was like, I was talking to someone, this guy is a big collector or a knowledgeable whatever in Europe, and we were kind of having this discussion. I was like, he was like, well, what do you like to buy? And I was like, I like True Color, Playing Day, Match Worn, stuff like that. And he basically said, like, with these new collectors in Europe, they don't care. They just want the numbered card,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
they just and I was like, well, that's fine. That's where everybody starts. This isn't me saying, oh, don't get your feet wet or whatever. But everybody starts there. But in the end, a lot of us just all want the same thing, right?
Mm.
Like we want a true gold or a true red or an on card or auto or
Yeah.
match worn pat. Like we generally, mostly not everybody wants all those, but like that's where the demand is.
I think
And
generally
so,
what you see is when someone comes in, they kind of cast a wide net, and rightly so, and that's what we
yeah,
want, and that's a sign of a healthy market, and that's great. You cast a wide net, but then you find that a lot of people cast that wide net and then never kind of move on to the next stage. They either exit the hobby or they kind of just fall out of love with it, or maybe they have like a big win on a player, and then they just kind of try and they get caught in a loop, or they just kind of try to keep repeating that, and then it doesn't work. But the people who tend to stay and who tend to enjoy it um, over the long term are those who eventually find within that wide net what kind of tickles their fancy and then pursue that in a kind of sustainable, exciting way to them.
right.
Um, I think I've noticed that a lot of people who have come in and have stayed in, certainly in soccer, they've found a way. They've eventually come to the conclusion that you're kind of outlining here, which is you have to end up at collectability. Otherwise, it's sort of an empty pursuit.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, when we all kind of want the same thing, like we don't all want the same players, we don't all want the same team, but generally, like I said, we all kind of want the same type of
Yeah,
card.
there are definitely clusters.
Yeah, it's like when people say, "Oh, like why is a gold shimmer of 50 worth half of like a true gold of 50?" And it's because 100% of the market wants a true gold.
Mm.
Only 50% of the market will even think about a gold shimmer. Let's say, obviously I'm making those numbers up,
Mm.
but people truly want true golds. They'll take a gold shimmer as a substitute,
Yeah.
but if they had the means, they would rather have the true gold, right? Because at the end of the day, this is all supply and demand,
Mm.
right? Like that's basically what it all goes down to. It's like I am not a jersey number collector, right? It
Yeah,
doesn't
me
mean
neither.
much to me, but I recognize that all it takes is two people being jersey number collectors, and that card's going to be worth more than a card that is not a jersey number,
I
or
would say I'm not a jersey number collector, but if you see me at a show, I am a jersey number seller. You would
yeah.
never. I personally don't value it, but I'm going to charge you more
Well,
because you
yeah.
might. Yeah.
Yeah, because you might. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at two cards to buy, even if you don't care about the card and one's jersey number and the other one's not, the jersey number is going to be worth more, right?
Yeah.
Because there are people that it cares to, even if it doesn't matter to you.
Yeah.
Same with color match, or what have you. Just like I think two things. I think playing day is something that is going to eventually matter as we get further away from playing day cards,
Mm-hmm.
because there are so few of them. You guys brought it up yesterday on the pod. Like if you look at the old, a lot of these premium, especially club cards, right? The
Yes.
premium it starts basically 2015, for Panini, 2017. I guess we'll call it for Topps. Essentially, like obviously there's other, but
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ones
Yeah.
that are super popular. And so if you look at like Messi, for instance, Messi Barcelona, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, right? Panini case hits are very, very, very popular. And he doesn't have a lot of case hits that are Barcelona playing day, right? I just overpaid for a Messi case hit Barcelona Panini card because there's not a lot of them,
Yeah.
right? And so I appreciate it. I know not everybody appreciates it now. I am actually I don't pump my cards. I hate people that pump. I don't even nobody knows what I have. Like when people look through my case, they're like, "Oh wow, you have great cards." I just don't want the headache of like, oh, like oh you're pumping blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I am going to write an article about why I seemingly overpaid for this card. Um, and it's not a card that's even readily available. It came out in 2020, and I think it's sold 3 times since then.
Right.
So it's like I can't even pump it. If I mean, I don't think I could. I don't think I can pump anyway, because of like I said, it's the basketball and other factors. But I do want people to start thinking more about what is truly collectible, right? And I
Yeah.
bought it because it was the first case hit of its time. It was Barcelona playing day. There was very few of them. It's and that matters to me. I buy cards that I think are truly collectible, and I think in the long run it will serve its goal, even if it doesn't like in the short term.
I mean, I think the concept of collectability is something that it kind of like every few months it kind of like comes up in a conversation or it pops into my head or whatever, and I kind of feel like, oh, collectability, and then I kind of drift back into the everyday kind of world of the hobby where it's mentioned relatively infrequently. But it is so important. I think we were having a conversation on the pod about Lamine Yamal, and it was funny because on the same podcast we covered a huge amount of amazing high end Lamine Yamal sales of fives, of tens, the red autos from Japan and stuff like that. Like, so doing amazing numbers. And on the same pod, we kind of had a whole litany of people who had written in to explain why the Lamine Yamal market had softened in their experience. And it was enough people that obviously a lot of them maybe had Lamine Yamal cards or were trying to sell Lamine Yamal cards and weren't able to. And we were kind of explaining it in a way of, or we were terming it in a way of the high end is doing fine. The mid to low end is struggling at the moment for all of the external factors, out of season, this, that, the other. Money being going into the NFL at the moment, etc. But I think when you look at high end and low end, oftentimes those are that is the correct terminology, high end, mid end, low end. But for something like the Lamine Yamal market, it's probably more useful to analyze it from the point of view of collectability. So his ultra collectible cards, which are essentially his low numbered rookie stuff, including patch autos and autos, his collectible stuff is doing really well. His stuff that is more of a commodity card, and I would include stuff like base chrome autos or
Yeah,
finest autograph. Those are commodities. They are on the nicer end. They are on the more collectible end, but they're not ultimately that rare.
yeah,
So it's funny how I certainly often think about high end and low end. But if you actually just go kind of one step removed from that and think about, well, why are they high end and low end in the first place? And it's because of rarity and it's because of collectability. Suddenly looking at the Lamine Yamal market and going, how are these people having such a disparate experience of the Lamine Yamal market? And you introduce collectability as a concept, and you start to go like, oh, because the stuff that is kind of just roughly tracking his performance is going to suffer when he's out of season or when he's injured or when he's not scoring or when he's not scoring in high profile matches, etc., etc. But the stuff that is appealing to the high end collectors or to collectors in general, regardless of whether or not he's currently scoring this week, isn't really suffering. So I think that's a good takeaway for people from this conversation.
Yeah, like if you look at a high end collector, especially, most of them are going to be experienced, right? They know if they have a 1 of 1 or an of 10 or of 5, whatever, that they're not going to worry as much, like unless the guy goes to jail or tears his
some sort of
whatever.
scandal or something.
Yeah, like something, but just not being in season, they might not ever get that card back. Right? So if they're like, oh man, well I'll sell now, and he goes and wins a World Cup, they're never going to get that card back. Or if they do, but if there's a base auto, you can get that every week, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's ultimately why, because like I said, it's supply and demand. That's ultimately it all it comes down to. So if you have something that's super desirable, you're not going to be as willing to let it go, right? And so I do occasionally I do lives with like Breaking the Law cards, and he sent me a video. I'd even forgot I said it. Like we filmed this, I don't know, maybe February 2024 or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was like when MLS Finest was coming out, so maybe it was a long whatever. And the neon green on cards autos were going for the same amount as a PSA 5 Messi 71 bis.
Right.
And I was like, give me a Messi.
I think I remember this. Yeah.
Like, well, luckily he found the clip, so I got to post it and look smart for once. Just recently, but I think there's a lesson to be learned there. Like I knew that 71 bis is collectible. I know, or at least I think that a neon green MLS Finest Messi card is not really collectible. Like you kind of buy it as a placeholder. And so when cards are placeholders, they're just being used to get to the ultimate, prize. And, they were both the same price then, and now one's, I don't know, 4 times as much or whatever it is.
And it's not the neon green one.
And it's definitely not the neon green one. And like I said, it's the same player. He's obviously done the exact same thing. And so I think there's a lesson to be learned there. Like if you're spending the money, spend it on something that's more collectible that you want, and that because if you want it, somebody else probably also wants it, right? And I think like even you, like look at your journey. Your journey started with just buying whatever, and now your journey is I want low number Ireland stuff, right? Irish stuff, and so that a lot of people that is the journey that people take. So, like, I'm not saying you have to go buy the best of something, but buy the most collectible for the exact same money.
I mean, I think we used the example of the jersey number thing, and I think that's a good example to say. You're not, obviously, if someone wants to buy a Messi card, we're not saying go out and just buy a PSA 10 71 bis. You can't, or maybe you can, but most people can't. They're not available, or, anyway. So it's like, we're not saying, obviously, you could go out and buy the best of every card. That's not it. The point is, in a situation where you're looking at the same card, but one's a jersey number parallel and one isn't, it's obvious to anybody that you would buy the jersey number card because it's more likely that somebody else is going to find that collectible. Right. So I would consider that to be a just sort of a useful rule of thumb. It doesn't explain everything. It's not like an unlock to unlimited financial success in the hobby, but it is something to think about. And I think the more of these kind of general principles we can keep in our heads, the better. Everyone's going to enjoy the hobby better because you're going to be less likely to make poor decisions, which ultimately is going to make the hobby less enjoyable. I wanted to ask you about some of your. I was going to ask you about some of your things, like that you really like about the soccer hobby. You can tell me those if you want, but what I'm really interested in, is because, I think maybe you might be one of the only people in the soccer hobby that gets as wide a range of correspondence and of people telling you their various experience in the soccer hobby as we do. And I think actually you probably get a wider amount of it because Well, I don't know. You're unlucky, I
Um,
guess. But
a little more controversial, maybe.
yeah, I think you maybe we're especially these days we're quite diplomatic
Yeah.
in our old age, sipping from
It's
a cup.
amazing
Cup here.
yeah, amazing what happened there. Although I obviously I can, I consider us friends.
Yeah,
We've known each other a long time, but I
yeah,
give you guys a ton of credit for at least knowing that you benefit from the relationships with the
yeah.
higher beings. You still say mostly what you feel, and you're not afraid to like push back, which there's a lot of people in your position that are not doing that right now. And so if you want to know something I
It's
don't like, it's the people that are being disingenuous
yeah.
just for allocation, let's call
Okay. Yeah.
it.
And
um,
have you seen like is that something that you think is more of a problem now than it was? Because
well,
I think it is because as
of course
the
it is. They're getting
yeah
graded. There's a everybody with tops allocations getting a report card now, and they have to pump, or
yeah
they have to pretend like everything's fine, or else they jeopardize losing allocation, which is their bread and butter. Um, I can't sit here and say like I fault them for doing that. It's not who I am. I don't, the only money I didn't even start Soccer Cards HQ to make money. I actually famously tried to get you guys
yeah
to basically,
yes you did
I basically to try to do the website, part of this,
yeah
as I did with a couple others. Nobody wanted to do it, so I just kind of filled the mold. Um, and then I make money off of eBay affiliates, which costs collectors $0.
yeah
Basically, if you buy a card, it comes out of eBay's cut, right? So I don't take money. I don't have to. I don't have to suck up. I tell that's just who I am in general. I started the site to help educate the newer collectors, but the newer collectors, so that they wouldn't get burned and leave the hobby, because ultimately, uh, more people in the hobby, is better for us. And there's way too many people that are just looking at this as like a one-time, money grab. Like
yeah
every transaction is like a one-time money grab. Like say hypothetically you opened up an LCS one day, right?
okay
Um, Totally hypothetical.
I can imagine
Uh,
that yeah sometimes
yeah.
in the
Okay.
distant future yeah
Yeah. And so like if you're a hobby store owner with a physical location, and a customer came in, you wouldn't try to wring every single dollar out of them, or
no
or even, maybe lie to them to try to get them to pay more than what something's worth. You're going to want them to leave happy. You're going to want them to come back. You're going to want to keep dealing, with those people, so that your business can grow. I don't think there's way too many people in this hobby that aren't doing that. They're treating like every single transaction like they need to get the most possible for that single
yeah
transaction.
like a
And
heist
yeah, and I hate it. I won't say they lie, because you never know what somebody truly thinks, but I
yes
do think that they
it's like that that line in Seinfeld where George says
yeah,
Jerry it's not a lie if you believe it
if you believe it, right?
yeah
Yeah, but I think they're being disingenuous,
mm.
especially if they've been around, right? Calling something a rookie that's not a rookie just because they think that will get them more money. Like
yeah
I put up the
yeah
2003.
let's get into the rookie thing the fake rookie thing
Yeah, like I put up the two. So there's been a couple talking heads or whatever that were like, oh, the 2003 2004 Upper Deck Cristiano Ronaldo rookies, right? And ultimately, I'm not the arbiter of the hobby to say what a rookie is, but uh, I think there's like some general principles that
yeah
of what a rookie is. And the problem is, I've long said it. The one of the biggest detractors to the soccer card hobby is the lack of a go-to rookie, or the
hmm
confusion around the rookie. The other sports don't really have that, and I think it very much helps get new people in, because you're like, I just have to get the player right. I don't have to also get the card right.
yes
You know, and so you have these people that come in and they just and it's people and it's Panini and it's Tops, and like it's not specific individuals, but I think they all have the same mindset of I'm just trying to get more money for this
Mm.
by calling it a rookie. Um, and I don't think that that's healthy.
No.
And it just goes back to it, because look, if you honestly, if you had a 2003 2004 upper deck Ronaldo, right, like in whatever grade, they wouldn't be selling, if they truly thought it was a rookie, they wouldn't be
They
selling
wouldn't be
them
selling it to you.
for what they're selling it to you
Yes.
for.
Yes.
Right? They're trying to profit, because those rookies are worth way less than the actual rookies, the 2002s, right? And so I just don't know the point. Like that card in itself is very collectible. It's very, very cool. Like, why do we need to to spread this confusion of like, oh, it's a rookie? Like, what the overuse of rookie is just, it's something that doesn't happen in other sports. I
Yeah.
wish it didn't happen in soccer. Like an of 7 2003 upper deck Ronaldo is as, if not more iconic than the actual rookie, because it is first Man United,
Yep.
and it's numbered very, very short. It can be iconic without being a rookie. Look at all these Messi cards that are going crazy. They're not rookies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the one of the big pushes in the original COVID boom was the 2014 Prism rookie Messi's, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, why we don't have to do that. Like first is different than rookie, right? I think
Yeah.
the first of something is valuable and collectible. Going back to what we said earlier, like 2014 Prism is valuable because it's the first,
It's the first World Cup. Yeah.
right?
2017 Chrome UEFA. Yeah.
2017 Chrome. But we don't have to call those rookies.
Yeah.
Like there's no need for it. Just like they should be able to stand iconically on their own. And so I just hate when people like you know uh,
I
just
mean,
gas up card for something that it's not.
what strikes me is that this Ronaldo thing, and it's not the first example of it, of course,
Yeah,
but just to
yeah,
say this Ronaldo thing, this comes in sort of like in the trail of the manufacturers, Tops and Panini,
right.
consistently spending the last few years sniping at each other and deliberately undermining each other. And I'm stressing that they're doing it to each other. They're both guilty of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, both.
And there are examples on both sides. But um, you might think, what does a 23-24 card, or what does a 25-26 card have to do with an 03-04 card? But it's funny how, if you what's happening now, especially because you have all these new collectors coming in, because soccer hobby is growing,
Yeah,
you are opening questions, and you're not even necessarily, because they're just thinking, how do we sell this product? We need this player has to be a rookie because we have to move cases of this product.
right,
That's fine. But it's funny how that might actually have a ripple effect out of the market, where it's like, hang on, so why can Endrick be a rookie 2 years in a row, or Esteval be a rookie 2 years in a row, but Ronaldo can't be a rookie 2 years in a row?
right.
It's not
Yeah,
like there's a rookie logo on the mega cracks and there isn't. It's not like. So I think it's funny to think about what is just a purely corporate decision from the manufacturers affecting, but it's like, it's up to us as a community of collectors. And collectors, I do think, as you said, they wouldn't be selling it to you for that price if it was worth as much. So to a
yeah,
certain extent, the market already does show what it is, and it can be fully collectible and everything. But like, it's funny to think about those two things, the ultra modern and the pre-modern, or the kind of rookies, interacting with each other in a sort of an unexpected way. Is it funny, or is it sad, or is it both? I don't know.
yeah. Like I said, the market is ultimately the arbiter. I just don't like when like people with huge platforms cause even more confusion. Like we already
Right.
have enough confusion. Why do you need to cause more confusion? Um,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. I think ultimately, and getting back to what we said, if there's the crossover, like there's no way, or I won't say no way, but it's highly unlikely a basketball collector is going to come in who is used to a standard rookie and be like, or football, whatever, and be like, oh, that this card from 2024 is actually his rookie, but what's wrong with this 2023?
Mm.
You know, like the collecting principle is like, the earliest card is, obviously as long as it's professional,
Yeah,
licensed,
yeah,
blah
yeah,
blah
yeah,
blah,
yeah, yeah.
whatever, right? But it's like for me, like I collect Holland rookies, and I've always just been like, I'm just going to buy Salzburg because Salzburg came before Borussia Dortmund. Like this is totally different than the other
Yeah.
conversation that we're having because it was during the same year. So I'm the fact that they're all rookies is fine, but I just look at them like, well, I know this team came before this team. So like it made sense. Obviously, there's the problem that it's finest, and then Chrome is king, and so
It's
so
sort of
forth.
like yeah, how's it all going to kind of rinse
Yeah,
out in the
yeah,
wash?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so forth and so on. But like I just if I know a card came before another card a full year, right? And I have come around um, on like the international cards or whatever, like like the Mbappe prisms. I think the way it's like played out, even if it's not a rookie, it's just so iconic that it
yeah.
it shouldn't matter. But yeah, if you have
Even if it's not a rookie, it is or not the rookie, it is something. It is definitely like something
yeah,
that is extremely collectible.
right. I think the thing that triggered me the most on like the Mbappe thing is like it's his first France card, which was like a blatant lie. Like there was a select card that came out 6 months before that
Yeah.
was a France card. It was an insert though, so you can have it. But regardless, I'm fine with like the international aspect because you have a 2003 2004 season and then whatever, and then you have the international or the summer,
Yeah.
but then once the next club season starts, I'm done with it. Right, like that's clearly to me a year later. And like there was a lot of pushback with like because of the way PSA slabbed cards back. Like I don't know if everybody knows this, but there are Ronaldo rookies that have 2002 and 2003 on the slab. Just
Yes.
because PSA just didn't know any better. They didn't
Yeah.
care back then. They didn't like, and that kind of happens with like, all this other like the 2003. So if you see a 2002 2003 Mega Crack A, then you see a two, and it says 2003, and then you see an upper deck with 2003, even though it's a 2003 2004 card. You're like, well, it's
Yes.
2003. It's it is what it is, and that was like kind of some of the pushback I got to that. But like, it clearly came from a club season that was he
Well,
didn't
yeah,
transfer.
because it's the two like 2003 on the PSA slab refers to they are competing for the 2003. It's the 2002 2003, but like somebody wins the championship in
Yeah,
2003.
yeah,
Man United were competing for the Premier League in 2004. That was
yeah,
when they were
yeah,
going to
yeah,
win that champ. So I guess if you wanted to be technical about it, but um, I do think like we were Enzo was noticing the 101 select that sold 2015 is mentioned striped jersey and
yeah,
just the idea that PSA were so unconcerned with soccer at a certain point up until very recently actually that they were literally just kind of doing a say what you see exercise and they were
yeah,
just like describing things based on they look at the Ronaldo card they go oh 2003 it might say copyright 2003 on the back I don't know what it says on the back but
yeah.
yeah how like how do you deal I mean this is more just a personal question you don't have to go into it but like you were talking about like various people who have a financial interest and whether it be pumping or whether it be misrepresenting products or misrepresenting rookies or overselling the value of cards available in a set or whatever like that. How do you deal generally, or is it a problem? Like, what is the community generally like? Do you find most people are fine, or like do you get a lot of pushback? Like, hey, you're coming over here where I'm working and I don't
Yeah,
appreciate it.
basically, I know when I post something and I start getting pushback, like I know that they're financially tied to the card. Like they don't have to tell me, right? Like I was literally having a conversation with somebody about the Cristiano 2003 upper deck,
Yeah.
And it's somebody that I know and respect. And then at the end, he was like, "Yeah, I have a 2003 unopened box." I was like, "I already knew that, like you didn't have to tell me that
That much was implied. Yeah.
that's like when you are like pushing back at me, I already know you have a financial interest. If I had it, I would still push back against it because that's just who I am. But like, this isn't about the money. To me, I'm just trying to help people. I want to make money. I don't want to lose money, but it is what it is. It's not going to make a difference, and that allows me to say what I actually believe. And a lot of people just can't. They, for whatever reason, they just don't get there. They're
Yeah.
they're arguing for, like, if you own a 2003 Manchester United Ronaldo, you think it's a rookie. Like, you don't really think it's a rookie, but if anybody,
But the
if you
very
go
fact
into
that you own it, it means you just kind of have to think it's a rookie.
yeah, if you're going into debate, you're taking the rookie side, whether
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
it or not.
Yeah.
But it's usually people don't usually get too crazy. I mean, there's some trolls out there that push back and that I think that I am trying to like be the arbiter of the hobby. I'm well aware that I cannot be, even if I wanted to be the
Mm.
arbiter of the soccer card hobby. Like, I don't have nearly that kind of control, will I ever. And some of it, like, if you even consume my content like regularly, you're probably not the person that is at that. Well, whatever. I
I
think
know.
where
I know.
I'm going.
I know. I know what you're saying. We can move on. We can
Yeah.
move on. I want to finish the conversation by asking you. I was going to ask you some things you love about soccer hobby, but actually, I want to take a slightly forward look and say what excites you going into the next, obviously, 12 months. We have a World Cup in North America, but beyond that, even in the next kind of 3, 5, 10 years of the soccer hobby, when you look at it, what has you most excited? It could be the growth, it could be the enthusiasm, it could be the community. Like, what motivates you to stay involved with the soccer hobby in such an active way? Like, what are you excited about?
I want to first start off by saying that, like, if you don't have, like, if you're listening to this and you don't have quote unquote like hobby friends, like, try to get some, because
Mm.
I think it's super super helpful. Like, I talked to a group of collectors, maybe not every day, but when something happens, like,
Yeah.
I'll shoot him a DM. And as in some cases, as much as I talk to my actual, like, non-hobby real life friends, and that helps, right? Like, I think
Yeah, for sure.
if it helps you stay involved, but you're gonna find people, like, the world's big, and I think it's harder for adults to find friends than it is,
Well,
like,
I guess that, I mean, why does anybody do any hobby? There's a social element.
yeah,
There may be other elements, but the social element is huge. Yeah, and again, I think
yeah.
under discussed for sure.
You get to meet people from around the world that you would have never, ever, ever had the chance of meeting, and I think that's like I think that's super cool,
I agree.
especially in like, I work from home, whatever. I don't work. I do more soccer cards than anything, unfortunately, and make a pittance. But
And get no thanks for it.
no, get people hating me. Oh, it's great. It's great. It's great, guys. No, but no, but seriously, I've met some incredible people. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, that's very nice. I think that's a good note. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as the cards themselves, I think that Tops slash Fanatics, whatever, is going to do some really really cool stuff. Um, I think they're going to make some really 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 collectible cards. I think at the same time they're going. It's kind of going to be. I'll try to keep it as positive as possible, but, like, I think they're going to make cool stuff. I think if you're trying to chase that cool stuff and gamble your way to that kind of stuff, it's going to be a very hard road for you. But somebody's got to win the lottery, right? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I'm
I
very
just to say,
interested.
just say on that point, I fully agree with that. So I think one of the things that's most frustrating about the the takeover of the soccer hobby and the rolling out of so many new products from Top slash Fanatics is that there is genuine, and this goes everything from Dynasty to UCC Reverence to Tops Now to whatever. It's like there is
Reverence.
genuine. Well,
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry. I thought I was on mute.
yeah. I think you had a cough there for a second. But there is like so much genuine product innovation happening. Cool cards, collectible cards are being created, but that is also, I think, being spread across a huge amount of products and a huge amount of cases of products. So just to say, I'm fully with you on that. Where there's kind of two things going on at the same time, which is like the odds are all getting longer, and it's all like for the kind of average collector, it's maybe getting tougher.
Yeah.
But for those lottery winners, the highs are getting higher. So I don't know. People
Exactly.
can judge for themselves whether or not that's a good or bad thing.
It's I like cool stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody thinks I'm just this, pessimist and ultimate hater or whatever. True
Yeah.
story. Back when I started this, I gassed up Tops did a much better job than Panini as far as like print runs, scoping out rookies, so forth and so on. And I gassed up those early products because they were affordable, they were short, and I had a good relationship with the people at the top of Tops. And then when and then when the print runs exploded, I just said these print runs exploded. The value proposition is no longer there. I stopped getting the communication or whatever. But if they do something good, if Topps or Panini, if they do something good, then I give them credit. If a good product comes out at a good price, I give them credit. Sadly, that's it doesn't happen
few and far between.
Yeah. Yeah, they're few and far between. But like, I'm not like, it's not like I'm just negative to be negative. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just telling, like I said, I'm telling how I see it, how I feel, and how like I'm not always going to be right. Right? But I look at it everything very analytically, and then I compare it to markers of the past, cards of the past, sales of the past, or whatever, and I give my opinion. Um, so yeah, one of the things I'm actually excited to see is what happens to these Panini, like these kind of legendary. I don't know if legendary is the right word, but very desirable Panini cards that are out there, and there's truly not that many of them. What happens when Panini is no longer, no longer there? Like say Panini does lose the FIFA license for the 2030 World Cup. Like we don't really have that many great Panini Prism World Cup cards, right?
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of thing, and especially if you're bullish and you think this thing is going to keep expanding, like I would imagine all of us do, which is why we're here. There's really not that many, and I'll give just a little real world. I mean, obviously we're on a soccer cards podcast, but I started. I've loved I loved wrestling growing up, like professional WWF, WWE, right, but so forth and so on, right. And so when I realized that Panini was losing that license after only having it for essentially 3 years and knowing that they're probably never going to be getting it back, I was like, oh, there's like some very, very desirable cards that there's not that many of them, right? Like at most, for a super desirable wrestler, they're going to have 30 Prism Golds, right? Like that's nothing.
That's nothing.
Like, I mean, we see what happens with Messi. Obviously this PSA 7 Copa Gold is getting pumped to the hills right now, which if there's 40 freaking Messi golds, it's number 40. No offense, but anyway, but I digress.
I can hear that. I can hear the pens touching the paper. The letters are coming in.
No, I mean, look, it's one of those things where I understand, like, not to go.
No, we don't have to get sidetracked. We can stay on the.
But I understand it's a great card, but like, anyway, like they're just over the top, just like by whatever. But getting back to what I was saying, like if there's only 30 of something, I often think what is the most that there can be of something for it to be desirable in the current soccer card market, right? And I don't know the answer, right? But if it's less than 50, I'm willing to take a chance, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
What is your take on the idea, which there's kind of like a couple of examples, not that many, on the idea that there's also a minimum number of something that there has to be.
I agree. Something can be too rare for its own good.
Yeah.
Because you not in a one-on-one situation, but in a situation where I think it has a lot to do with unnumbered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm obviously like a big unnumbered. I calculate those print runs. I look at those
Yeah.
things for opportunity, if you'll call them. I think something can be too rare for its good because you need other people, sadly, but you need other people to realize the value of something and probably have them themselves to want to protect the value of that or make the value of that go up.
Yeah.
Um, like I'll just give a real world example, like the select honeycombs this year.
Mm-hmm.
They're super short, super.
Yeah.
I
Super
mean,
short. They look great.
they look great. I mean, they're essentially gold cards,
Yeah.
Um, they're super short. And so when I see one of those, like a Messi or Yamal or Holland, Mbappe, whatever, I'm gonna go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I ultimately, because I think if people realize, uh, then they're like, oh, well, there's not that many of them. Maybe I want one, or like
Yeah.
this, and so. Um, but I do agree that there needs to be more of something. But like I said, a good example, the artistic impressions of Select, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're super short, so they're not the best looking cards in design. I mean, I personally like them, especially the new ones, but design plays a huge role, and they're not flashy by any means, right? But if
Yeah.
you're telling me there's a case hit of Lionel Messi and there's less than like I said 50 of them, right? People that open 2022 select, 2023 select, whatever, wherever those cards are, they know it was a case hit, and there was some level of excitement when they hit it at that
Mm-hmm.
time, right?
Yeah.
So if we go 10 years down the road, let's just call it arbitrary number, right? And they look back and they're like, I actually had excitement when I hit that card. And then they realize that there's really not that many of them. Maybe they want to go back to that happy place, and that
Yeah.
card may take them there, right? It doesn't do it right now.
We've hit upon another variable in our sort of like unknowable equation, which is nostalgia.
Nostalgia plays a
Um,
huge part.
it's a whole other thing, you know.
Yeah.
So listen, Scott, I really think the only solution here is that you're going to have to, in a few months' time, come back and do another Casual Fridays with me.
All right.
Because as I mentioned at the start, that you and I have had too many conversations to possibly fit in just one chat.
Yeah.
So
We could go on for a long time.
That's what I'm thinking. So for the sake of the listeners, I will cut it there. I want to recommend highly Soccer Cards HQ, soccercardshq.com, and then on Instagram and on Twitter if people are still over there. I know I am. I want to quit it, but I just can't.
I agree.
Yeah. So yes, I highly recommend that. I want to thank you for all of the unpaid and uncredited contributions you've made to the Soccer Cards United podcast over the years. And I'm great. It's great to finally get you on Casual Fridays.
Oh,
And have a chat.
one thing I
Yes.
just remembered, and it kind of goes back. I'm glad you said. So there was. It's kind of funny. There was never flat kabooms before. I know the comment that you read that made you think that. I'm just queuing back to the podcast today. There was never.
But I'm picturing a certain thing. Do you think I've invented that based on a comment I've read?
I think so.
Wow. My God.
But that's a whole nother story about the soccer card. We can get to that at another time. I'm just saying
God.
it just because it happened on the thing that was released yesterday and it's super relevant to the product being open now. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Do you have an opinion on whether or not those images are AI generated?
Of course they are. Oh, wait until I didn't really. I have written the review. I wrote the review yesterday. I was kind of waiting to see if we got like a firm hobby date. I don't think we're going to get a firm hobby date. And there's just like way too much of this stuff, and I have way too many people asking me. So the review is all but written. I need to just do some formatting or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's awful. It's all.
Okay.
I'll just give real quick because I do think it's relevant.
Yeah.
I end the review. It's not going to be a great. It's kind of a scathing. I don't want to say scathing, but whatever. It's not a great review. But the reason the review I think is what it is because it could have been such a great product, and I've left disappointed. Like it could have been so good, and that's when somebody's disappointed is when they lash out the most, and maybe that's what I was
Yes. Yeah.
a victim of.
You're never really gonna get that worked up about something you had no expectations for.
Yeah, it could have been so good.
And I would actually just add to that that's how I feel generally about a lot of what Panini have done in soccer over the last number of years is just kind of, I'm just like, guys, you had a golden opportunity here. We're all backing you. We're all with you. And and that's when you get, I think sometimes, on the pod we get quite worked up and go in quite heavy on not individual people, but like on designs or whatever. And generally it's because we're extremely disappointed.
It's awful. I'm just mad because it just happens. It's seemingly, although I say that, and now we just found out there's a new NFL downtown that doesn't even have the right player on it. So really, just Panini's just incompetent, I guess.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's more incompetency for soccer than there are in other.
Yeah,
sports.
if they're turning up and down the competency meter in their Dallas HQ. I also this is all just recent. I might as well talk to you about it while you're following this. Did I see? Maybe I saw it on your stuff. The multiple of the same numbered card.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Until we see it. I mean,
on this story as we get it.
Yeah, I mean, I had someone tell me that they literally packed 2 of the exact same number card out of the same case. Like when the one guy posted, he's like, "Oh, it's for sale," or "I got it from China," and then this other one's here or whatever, and like that, whatever.
Yeah,
like China may or may not copy stuff. I don't know. I don't want to get into the.
We don't want to. Yeah.
Into the geopolitical part of it, but China may have faked some products in the past. But when somebody told me they hit 2 out of the same case or whatever, I'm like, oh boy. But the crazy part is, if it does happen, it probably happens more than we ever know, because how many people are like really chasing it down? Like you basically have to be a collector of like a short print card, which is what happened in the first case, where it's like you're just trying to get all the of 10s, and you're like, oh crap, I have 2 of the same number of 10. But that's not going to happen.
How do they end up with 11 of these? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
all I can do is recommend to people that they follow Soccer Cards HQ for more on that and many other developing soccer card stories. I do my best.
I mean, there's a lot of good creators out there that I'm not the only one. You guys are good. There's
we're
lot
okay.
Of them.
We're more of an at this stage. We're more of an aggregator. We're doing very little primary reporting.
But you're doing an important role, because I don't do podcasts, and you're, like I said, you guys get a lot of respect because you'll tell you'll go into 10 minutes of why what's happened in this Club World Cup with licensing and AI is terrible, when a lot of people won't. So
no. And there are times when I've gotten emails and I've read the emails and I've been like, oh, I wish I didn't know this. Because now I have to talk about it.
Exactly. But it is what it is.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Scott, and we will see you somewhere down the road on Casual Fridays.
All right. Thank you for having me.